Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever had a franchise or a company that you just really like? You know they have their issues and you know they do good things, but no matter what, you always seem to really like them. Whether it's Blizzard or whether it's Bethesda or someone like, I don't know, Insomniac, you always have that one company that no matter what, you always like. Well, that company for me is Bethesda. I love their franchises. I love the Elder Scrolls, I've loved the Fallout franchise, and I love a lot of their games that they help publish, like Dishonored and Prey. And I think they do just such a good job with their games. But none of their games are without fault, let's be real. Like, there is always an issue with the game, whether it's Fallout 4, Skyrim, Fallout 3, whether it's the first couple Elder Scrolls games. There's always an issue or two that just stands out in the game. There is no perfect Bethesda game, but they're always good. They're always interesting, or at least enjoyable. They're always worth your time. Well, today I kind of wanted to talk about something. At least talk about a topic that I've been thinking of for a while now. I even came up with a little catchy name for it. I want to call this series The Good, the Bad, and the Bethesda. Part 1. Skyrim. Now, of course, I wanted to start this series off with a game that I think everybody that loves Bethesda, or at least knows of Bethesda, has played. And that's Skyrim. With how many editions of Skyrim that there is, it's very hard for someone in today's day and age who loves video games to not play Skyrim. It's so accessible, it's so easy to get into, and it's so good. I mean, don't get me wrong, this series will be talking about the good and the bad, and there are some bad aspects to Skyrim. But I will not be digging into it as bad as some people have. Trust me, there are some people that really like to dig into Skyrim, and I don't know if it's for attention or if they're just blindly hating the series, but I feel like there are some good and bad aspects to this game, which is why it's perfect to start off with. Just to be clear, this video is not going to be going over the story, it's not going to be going over the gameplay mechanics super in depth. You're going to have to wait till my study of Skyrim in order to see that. But for now, we are just going to be talking about the good and bad aspects to these games. What kind of problems does Skyrim have? What kind of, good points does it have to it? What kind of stuff do people buy Skyrim for, and what kind of things do people dislike Skyrim for? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, for those of you who don't know, Skyrim is probably one of the most successful titles out there to date. It has been released about 7 years ago on roughly 5 different platforms. It has been released on the Xbox 360, the PS3, then again for the PS4 and the Xbox One, as well as the Nintendo Switch, and of course the PC platform. It has been released almost 4 to 5 different times for different systems and different editions. When it comes to Legendary Edition, the Special Edition, it's been released for the frickin' Echo, for God's sake, the very special edition.
Have 7% health left.
Oh shit. I drink a health potion.
You are out of health potions.
How many wheels of cheese do I have left?
473.
Okay, I eat all the cheese. I eat all of the cheese.
And that's obviously a really good sign that it's successful if it keeps selling and keeps getting re-released. But what exactly makes Skyrim good? Well, first off, I have to say that Skyrim is probably one of the most enjoyable games that you can play, at least in this day and age. It's not very enticing when it comes to RPG standards, as it's more of an action free-roam game than an RPG. It's more something akin to The Witcher than it is something akin to the early Elder Scrolls games that relied on, wisdom, intelligence, strength, endurance. Instead, now you just go out into the world and you use the skills you want to use and you improve those skills and you get better. It's not a bad thing. You can go and play as a mage or a warrior or an archer or a thief or an assassin, but you're not bound to that. It's very flexible, which is a good and a bad thing when you think about it, but I'm going to be looking into how that's a good thing. See, not being married to one individual class means that there's there's many hours where you can just decide on the dot to just suddenly do something else, or to experiment with something else. Now, depending upon how far into the game you are and what level you are is of course going to affect how well you starting off an entirely new form of combat is going to be. It could be good, it could be bad. You could be level 50, and for all you know, the bows you're picking up and the skills and the perks that you do not have are going to hinder you moving forward. And it can be more of a frustrating experience than, well, an enjoyable one. But the option early on is probably one of the most interesting things about the game, because you're not bound to do what you thought you had to do, or what you decided you were going to do at the very beginning of the game. So, in and of itself, that allows you to just go out and do whatever you want. It gives you more freedom, and therefore more flexibility to do the things you want to do, even if you spontaneously decide to do something else. Now, since we're on the topic of freedom, another good point about Skyrim is something I actually mentioned when it came to a feature that should be within Elder Scrolls 6. I said in the beginning of Skyrim that you are allowed to essentially just ignore the main quest. This was something that was seen in Daggerfall, and I think they kind of carried it over. They're asking you to do something, but you can just blow it off until you wish you want to do it. Or you could just never do it if you don't want to. And the cool part about not doing the main quest is, if you don't know, Skyrim makes you, go on this journey where you find out you're the Dragonborn. A person with the body of a man, Mer, or Khajiit, or Argonian race, and the soul of a dragon who's able to absorb souls of other dragons. And it's very interesting because you can just ignore that. You do not have to be known as the Dragonborn when you go and start up Skyrim. You can just ignore that main quest point, and they even acknowledge it, like stuff in the Soul Cairn. Even when you go to do the Jonguard DLC, the dragon there, Solkanir, if I'm not mistaken is his name, the Necromancer dragon, will even acknowledge this and be like, there's something special about you, but I don't know what it is. And you even can say, well, I don't know, I'm not this, that, or the other, and you don't have to say you're the Dragonborn. Now, there are other parts, obviously, in the game where it's kind of annoying, where you do have to do the main quest, like the Civil War quest, for example, will make you do up to the point where you find out you're the Dragonborn and continue, but most of the other guilds, quest lines, and side quests do not require you to become the Dragonborn or to, well, do the main story, which is kind of nice. You're allowed to go out and do whatever you want, which means it's open to more new people that are able to come in and play the game. That's something that Bethesda seems to be doing good as of late, allowing people to come into a franchise brand new and not have to worry about being, well, accustomed to the game series at that point. It's more newbie friendly, I suppose you could say, which again can be seen as a bad thing, I suppose. Now, another point that the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim seems to get right is the combat. Now, in previous iterations of the Elder Scrolls games, the combat wasn't the best, whether it was randomly generated numbers when it comes to you trying to hit a target. When it came to Morrowind, its janky system of the same thing from Elder Scrolls 1 and 2, but now you could see your weapon go through the enemy's face, and then you realize that it's not actually hitting them. To Oblivion, which kind of got it right, but at the same time felt really awkward as it was just starting to get into the whole, strategizing when to block and when to actually power attack and such. To Skyrim, where now it feels a little bit more streamlined, more perfected, more, well, good, I suppose you could just say. It's nothing complicated. You block when you're supposed to, you hit when you're supposed to, but power attacks and regular attacks, arrows and magic actually feel like they have some weight behind them this time, which is one of the strong points of Skyrim at this rate. The combat seems to have been gotten right this time. Another thing is the progression. The progression seems to be done a little better this time. Though in previous games, progression was slower, kind of, I suppose you could say sluggish. Not too bad, it felt right and people enjoyed it and there was nothing wrong with it. But compared to Skyrim, Skyrim is a lot faster and this goes into a lot more of the streamlining and casualization of the game. But again, this isn't a bad thing. You just walk into the game and you begin to work at what you want to work at and you can see yourself improve. You get perks that increase your damage, you get level ups, more health, more magicka, more stamina, you get special unique abilities from completing certain quests. It just feels like overall, every time you beat an enemy or go through a dungeon or slay a dragon, there's always something that helps you feel like you progressed a little bit. And it feels nice, it feels rewarding, and that's why you can spend so many hours into the game without getting bored. There's always something to do and it always feels like you're accomplishing something, which is kind of nice, honestly. The DLCs are probably a good thing to bring up too. Dawnguard, Dragonborn, and of course Hearthfire are all very nice add-ons. I had a conversation with one of my friends' friends the other day, and he even said he had never played the DLCs for Skyrim. And me and my friend kind of just both were like, what? You've never played them? They're actually very good. Most DLCs for RPGs are always good, especially when you look at Bethesda. I mean, Fallout 3's DLCs were amazing, Oblivion's DLCs were pretty good with Shivering Isles and Knights of the Nine. Let's look at Morrowind. I mean, Blood Moon and the Tribunal were both beautiful expansions that really delved into the lore of the game and into the Daedric princes, and even the Tribunal was just a wonderful way to kind of look into something that was in the main story but just wasn't in the main game. It was kind of nice. The Dawnguard and Dragonborn DLCs are very packed with interesting content, interesting stories, and they kind of add in new features which make the game fresher, and they're just nice tacked on experiences. Hearthfire is something that just adds in houses and a bunch of new, I suppose you could say, consumables and other items that you can do. It allows you to work towards building a manor and such, and that also gives a nice sense of progression and just a nice little tacked on piece to the game, which is really enjoyable. I would also like to talk about shouts. Shouts were a nice addition to the Elder Scrolls formula. It's not something that I would want to see again moving forward. It's just a really nice feature, something that was kind of new and unexpected. In Oblivion, you didn't really have anything that set you apart from anybody else. It just was your ambition to move forward. It felt like anybody could have done what you did. You were just a prisoner. And though Uriel said you were bound by fate to do this, it really felt like anybody could have done it. And in Skyrim, it feels like you're special. It feels like you yourself are the only person that can do what needs to be done. You are the Dragonborn. You are the person who can absorb souls of dragons, that can stop all doing, that is extremely powerful. You have shouts. You can absorb dragon souls, get new shouts. They add things to the combat like fire and freezing, moving very fast, throwing your enemies off of cliffs, freezing time, becoming invincible, making you swing your weapons faster. They were just really nice little, I don't know what else to call them other than, if the main combat was a dish, these were nice seasonings is what I'm trying to say. They added something new to the combat that spiced it up, and I really enjoyed them. And again, like I said, I don't know if I would want to see them again moving forward, but I would like to see something else very similar that would be kind of different in the next Elder Scrolls game, I suppose. Now, when it comes to Skyrim and the good stuff in the game, I think this is the majority of what I wanted to talk about. I might mention one or two things towards the end of the video, but I would like to move on to, well, the badder aspects of the game. The Skyrim has a lot of bad aspects to it, and I'm just going to dedicate the rest of this video to talking about that. Now, what is bad about Skyrim? Please do not expect me to tear this game apart and say it's trash. I am not going to do that. I like Skyrim. Sue me. Skyrim does have some bad features though when it comes to it being an RPG, and when it comes to previous games in the series and how they improved from it, they also kind of went in a different direction, which I guess you could say riled some fans in the wrong way. And I suppose the first thing to talk about is the, well, RPG elements in Skyrim. Now, as I said earlier, Skyrim is a lot more streamlined and casualized compared to the previous entries in the franchise, and this can be seen as a bad thing as well. I said earlier that while it could be seen as a good thing, it could be seen as a bad thing, and it kind of is a bad thing. It's good that it's casualized for people to enjoy and for anybody to kind of just get into. I'm pretty sure I know more than a good couple people that have spent thousands of hours on Skyrim, including myself, but looking at the older games, I can see how some of the old features I kind of miss when I played through the other ones and came back to Skyrim. I liked the diversity of weapons. I liked how sometimes you were married to a class and that you could, only do certain things. It made you feel realistic. Like if you did want to go in one direction, it would be harder because you have no experience with it. And when it comes to just the overall progression of the series, when it comes to just, aspects of the game like random dice rolls, when it comes to all that kind of stuff, they've been largely, I guess you could say, dissected from the game. It doesn't feel like you have a class. It feels like you are everything. Like you can do everything. And like I said, later on into the game, when you're level 50, it can be harder, to get into other stuff if you haven't already experimented with it. But you still can do it. A lot easier than you can in most other games. And I guess that just kind of feels cheap. I don't know. It does feel like it's lacking something. The story overall isn't that interesting, at least the main story. The DLC stories are very good. I did enjoy them. And the main story is okay, it's not bad. But when it comes to stuff like guild quests and the Civil War storyline, they are a little weaker. I feel like the Thieves Guild, for example, is a far cry from what they were in Oblivion. I really liked how they had a network of like beggars and stuff that got info, how they didn't kill no matter what, how they actually managed to be creative when it came to stealing things, how they would pull off really, really big heists. The Thieves Guild in Skyrim doesn't feel like that. The Mages Guild is gone and replaced by the College of Winterhold, which feels a lot weaker when it comes to a school for training. It doesn't feel like you are a student when you come in, it just feels like you're strung along a series of events until you finally become the Archmage in a matter of a week, which kind of sucks and feels kind of cheap. The companions are okay. The fact that you had to become a werewolf and that they were werewolves was kind of interesting, but at the same time, if you didn't want to be a werewolf, you couldn't complete the companions quest line. Which, I don't know, that one didn't feel that great to me, and compared to the Fighters Guild, it felt a little different. I could see what Bethesda was going for, trying to change, what all of the old formula when it came to guilds. They tried to change everything to be more Skyrim-centric and more, I guess you could say, normal to the area. It felt, what's the right word? It felt like it belonged there. That's what it was. It felt like everything belonged in that area, and it made sense for Skyrim. Whereas, previous games had guilds which were centric to the Empire, Skyrim is kind of having more of an identity away from the Empire, which is interesting. What I'm mostly trying to say is a lot of the guilds and stuff feel like they're a far cry from what most people were used to at this point. And, again, not a bad thing, but the Dark Brotherhood falling apart and how everybody in there it didn't feel like they were a member of the Dark Brotherhood. It felt like a clash of old and new, which was interesting, but it just felt different. It didn't feel like you were completing contracts to be an assassin for the Order. It felt like you were completing contracts just to make money, which I guess is the whole purpose of the Dark Brotherhood, but, it just felt, again, cheaper. I hate saying it again, but it really does feel like that. When it comes to the Civil War, they tried to make it seem like it would be a bigger thing, but it really wasn't. I feel like they cut things from the Civil War, which if you have the Skyrim mod Cutting Floor, you can see there's more stuff added into the games and more missions and more quests that would have made it more expansive, which is why I recommend that mod. I will probably leave a link down in the description for you to go check it out if you wish to. And I just feel like the Skyrim Civil War, it didn't matter which way you went in. They were all basically the same. You would fight at these forts for a little bit. They were kind of cool. Do all these other missions. You did the same thing that you would do for each side. There wasn't much of a difference. And I don't know. I just didn't like it that much. I typically wait till the end of my playthrough when I've done everything to do the Civil War now. Because at that point I have so many powers and abilities, I can just wipe everybody out. But it just doesn't feel like something I want to rush to do. It doesn't feel like something I'm excited. The only reason I want to do it is because I know I'm going to have to fight like an army of people, and I'm going to use every ability I have to end Skyrim's major conflict. But that's it. The main enemy of the game, Alduin, is very weak. He just feels like another enemy. When you fight him at the very end of the game, he's just another dragon. There's really nothing special to him. It's kind of cool because you get like 3 other people to fight him with, which is kind of cool, but there was no unique kind of combat to fighting him. Whereas when it came to Dawnguard's final boss, Harkin, he had at least a new form, a new ability that you could fight him in, like the Vampire Lord perks. And he had gargoyles, which were new enemies that would pop in to also fight him. So it was kind of cool to fight him at the end of the day, as well as Mirak, who would summon in other enemies to help him out, and summon in dragons and absorb souls, and it felt like you were fighting waves rather than just fighting one person. And I mean, Sovngarde is a cool place to go to, but that doesn't make up for Alduin being a very weak and generic boss at the end of the game. So that's another bad part of Skyrim. And I said earlier combat was kind of cool. I felt like it was the most balanced, but at the same time it felt like they removed a lot of things from previous games. Weapon types like staves, battle hammers, and just unique spears and stuff that you could throw at people. They felt like they removed those. It felt like they removed a specific type of weapon from the game, and I don't know, I liked being able to throw like ninja stars and stuff, and I missed certain schools of magic, and I don't know, it just feels like some of the stuff was removed. I don't feel too bad about stuff being removed, but some people really liked certain classes, and removing them from one franchise or one entry in the franchise to the next, it kind of removes from the game, don't you think? And I could see why they wouldn't want people levitating around. That was kind of the point of the dragon shouts, where you were supposed to, like, you know, use those. They made up for it. But I miss levitation, I miss teleportation. Those were really cool abilities, and I hate the fact that they removed them. But at the same time, it's not too terrible. We've been able to play the game without them, but I hope in the future they do make a return, as that's a very, well, it's a weaker part of the series, that they had to remove certain aspects of the game in order to, you know, move forward, which I did not like. I know that there are some other things that I probably haven't mentioned, like for example, the lore is kind of messed up. Some creatures and stuff that have been shown before are a lot different. Cities are a lot smaller than they should be, and, well, some aspects of games are changed around from what they were previously said to be, and I can understand being annoyed with that. I actually have gotten annoyed with that before. But in the end of the day, it doesn't really ruin the game itself, it just kind of ruins the story behind it, which I guess you could say ruins the story in the game itself, but I don't know. I never really had a bad experience with Skyrim. It's always been a game that I've kind of just defaulted to sometimes. I love Oblivion, I love a lot of the other Elder Scrolls games, I love Fallout, and I love Bethesda when it comes to them making games. Even if they have bad aspects to their games, there's always something good about them, and there's always something that makes it enjoyable when you play through them. Even in small bursts or big bursts, or if you just continuously come back to them from mods and such. You know, that's why this series is called The Good, the Bad, and the Bethesda. It's talking about the good, the bad, and just the plain out Bethesda facts of the game. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I really hope that you liked my discussion, and I hope that you continue to come back for more of them in the future. If you agree with me or felt like I missed something, put it down in the comment section. If you feel I should be getting more views or that I have very few subscribers, share it. Show other people in Discords and other Reddit threads and such my videos. I do theories, I do discussions, and I do just general topics when it comes to Bethesda and their games. And like I said earlier, thank you for watching. I appreciate you watching up to this point, and I hope in the future you come back for more. Subscribe for more, like the video if you wish to, no pressure. And like always, say it with me now. Play well, eat well, and live well, friends. Always strive to break infinity.